Good evening, everyone. This will be part one of my Glowing Dark series. To start things off, I'd like to explain how I set up my game at first, so everyone knows what it's going to be like when I'm going in. So basically, I customized my settings. Everything is pretty much random, and the only thing I really changed was how the wolves and the rabbits spawn. Rabbits, I figure there's gonna be a lot of them around, so I just changed them to high. As for wolves, I put them to medium, not knowing how many would actually spawn when I played the game. So, when I first started, I picked a random spawn location, and it ended up spawning me on the fishing lake of Mystery Lake. From there, after I caught some fish, I moved on to the cabin that was nearby and started to set up a base camp. After foraging around and collecting wood and sticks for a few days, I got set up to the point to where I could start advancing more and more. So I'd like to take a few moments and talk about the story mode of The Long Dark, because narrating adventure mode, or survival mode rather, is very repetitive. It's just, you go to an area, you collect supplies, kill animals, survive, collect gear, continue to survive until you've reached whatever goal you've set for yourself. So, when you first start out the game, you have to sit through fucking 20 minutes of cinematics, basically. And once you've watched everything, it basically throws you right in. You've survived a plane crash, you're bleeding, and you have shrapnel in your hand. Once you remove that, you have to make bandages. Once you've done that, healed your wounds, you kind of start moving forward. Recommends that you gather sticks and wood to create a fire, and as many rocks as possible so that you can knock out and kill as many rabbits as possible so that you can harvest them for food up until you get to Milton. Milton is a great resource, both in story and in survival mode. In the future, I'm planning to go towards Milton to gather as many supplies as I can and bring them back to my base camp at that cabin near the frozen lake.
I think I can use this.
But in story mode, once you get to Milton, you see a house that's lit up compared to the others, and you find your first NPC, which was surprising to me because when I first watched YouTube videos about The Long Dark, it was always survival mode, so I never really thought there was going to be NPCs, even in story mode.
This will come in handy.
So, once you talk to the Grey Mother, she tells you a little bit about what happened to the town, kind of how she distrusts you, how you're a stranger, and then she'll ask you to help her out, bring her wood, around, I think it was 20 pounds of wood. And once that's done, you'll start gaining reputation points with her. And then she'll ask you to stock up food for her. Now keep in mind, you don't have to do any of this, but it is recommended because I'm pretty sure that finding mountaineering rope normally in the game is very hard, especially in Milton. Now, I never unlocked all the lockboxes that are in the town, so there could be rope in one of those. But as far as the story mode goes, helping the Grey Mother is recommended both for the mountaineering rope and because she gives you free, never-ending food once you've gained enough of her trust. After you've done all the Grey Mother's missions and you've collected as many supplies as you think you need, I myself went for pretty much almost being overweight to the point to where I couldn't walk, because that's just the way I play. And I want to be ready for anything. But once you're all ready and you have the rope, you can go up to the mountainside, climb down to the next area, which is Mystery Lake itself. So Mystery Lake in campaign mode, way easier to deal with than survival, I would say. Mostly due to the fact that in campaign, when you first get there, it starts you off with a hunting rifle right away. And when I made my way there in survival mode to the hunter's cabin, the rifle was not there, which kind of sucked because I was going to use that to kill wolves. Needless to say, though, I adapted and went about collecting parts to make a bow. Back to story mode. Once you have saved the trapper from the bear and he starts talking to you about how he needs medical supplies from the dam, it's a pretty straight shot to go from his house to the dam. There wasn't really any wolves in my path in the story, and if there were, they kind of just ran away. But searching and looting the dam is pretty easy. Doesn't take too long. And once you have the medical supplies, you can go back out and get to him easily enough and heal the trapper. And he'll talk to you more about the bear and himself. And what you're gonna need to do is
Nobody needs this anymore.
craft the Great Bear Spear later on down the line. Something of which I wish they would let you use in survival mode, because there's no fucking way to fight off a bear when it mauls you. Something of which I learned the hard way when I went bear hunting, but that's later. So, the forge, you're going to have to go through two areas, one of which is the Forlorn Muskeg, and the second is the Broken Railroad. But, unknowns to me, there is a forge in the Forlorn Muskeg in the left-hand corner of the map, which I found in survival mode, which allowed me to create my own axes and knives and stuff, so I'm fully stocked for when my normal gear breaks and my whetstone breaks. But campaign-wise, I went to the Broken Railroad for the forge, found the bear in a cinematic a couple of times. Nothing really got in my way on the way. I will say that there were a couple of wolves around the forge, but flares and those stuff scared them away. So I didn't have to worry about that. So it is recommended that you have a lot of wood and stuff for the forge, because you need a lot of heat, and if you're trapped there, you're gonna need to stay there for a little bit. But once you have your wood pile set up, you can move past the forge and towards the Hunter's Lodge. Now, the Hunter's Lodge will be a huge resource for you, whether it's campaign or survival. In campaign, obviously the bear spear is there, so you collect it there, along with whatever scrap metal you'll need, because you'll need metal to repair it. That'll be all for episode 1. We'll see you next time on episode 2.